Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. For many teams, Week 6 is the halfway point of the college football season. There are only 6 games remaining before a team continues play into the postseason or their season comes to a screeching halt and they have to start looking forward to next year. If your team is one of those teams that is struggling, they still have time to turn things around, but it has to start now in Week 6. And we have our 5 biggest games of Week 6 up here on the board, including 3 huge ranked versus ranked matchups that not only have conference implications, but could greatly shape the college football playoff. And we'll start things off with probably the biggest game of Saturday, number 19 Texas versus number 7 Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry in Dallas, Texas at the Cotton Bowl. And back in the summer, I picked Texas to win this game, and I have now switched my pick over to Oklahoma, mostly in part due to Kyler Murray. He is on a completely different level right now. 7 touchdowns against Baylor. He can beat you on the ground. He can beat you through the air. I was really concerned on how Oklahoma was going to replace Baker Mayfield. I knew Kyler Murray was going to come in, but I was like, can he live up to what Baker Mayfield left behind? He has done a phenomenal job. In my opinion, a better dual threat quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Mayfield had the arm. Kyler Murray has the legs to beat you on the ground. Texas really hasn't faced a quarterback of this caliber this season. They faced off against Maryland in the season opener and lost that game. And they bounced back. They get a huge win against USC. They beat TCU. They beat Kansas State. But I don't know if that defense has enough to bottle up Kyler Murray and take him out of the equation. If they can shut him down, Texas has a very solid chance of getting a win here because their defense has played, in my opinion, exceptionally well. Looked good against Kansas State, only allowing 14 points. Did well against TCU. I think won that game 31-16. They limited USC to, I think, a little over 20 points. So their defense has done extremely well, but can they shut down Kyler Murray? And I'm going to say no. Oklahoma is rolling right now. I don't know anybody right now that's going to be able to shut them down and match them step for step on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe West Virginia in the Big 12 can do that in the season finale. But right now, I think Oklahoma has too much going for them. They're not just an offensive team. They're able to do very well on the defensive side of the ball, despite letting up 33 points to Baylor this past weekend. So I'm going to give the win to the Sooners in a huge game against the Longhorns. If Texas is able to pull this one off, you could be looking at them potentially trying to make a run to the Big 12 championship game. But if not, this will be Texas' second loss, and we got to start questioning where they're going to fall in postseason play. Then we got number 5 LSU and number 22 Florida. And we're not going to be able to break this game down. If you want to hear our analysis and who we have winning this game, go check us out over at PredictEV. There is a link in the description below specifically for this LSU-Florida game. We would really appreciate you guys to go check that one out. We're going to break this one down, tell you who's going to win and why we think they're going to win that game. So the analysis on LSU-Florida, probably the biggest SEC game of this week over there on PredictEV. The link is in the description below. Florida State and number 17 Miami. This game, obviously a huge rivalry game. We're seeing a handful of rivals going at it this week, and none bigger than Florida State Miami, or one of the bigger ones, Florida State and Miami. In the past couple of years, very classic matchups. We saw, I think it was 2 years ago, Miami losing in a heartbreaking fashion. I think missing the PAT or having the PAT get blocked by the Seminoles. Last year at Florida State, we saw Miami escape last second with a win, and I'm expecting another close matchup here, but the win's going to go to the Hurricanes. In my mind, there's no doubt about this. Florida State has extremely struggled this season. We've seen that over the course of the first couple of weeks in the Willie Taggart era. They shouldn't have even won last week against Louisville, while Louisville continued to pass the ball after they had picked up that first down with just a little under 2 minutes left. I have no idea. They could have run it a couple more times, kneeled it, and the game would have been over. But they passed it. Florida State picked it off, won the game 28-24. So just poor coaching and poor play calling and time management by the Cardinals there. Florida State, not as good, in my opinion, as their 3-2 record may indicate, and some people might even say 3-2 is not good enough. We expect some growing pains out of these new coaches, but Florida State does not have enough to go on the road and defeat Miami. I know this isn't necessarily a true road game. You're going to have tons of fans from both sides coming to Miami to watch this game, but the Hurricanes are going to take care of business. Mark Richt's going to take care of business. I know they benched Malik Rozier for N'Kosi Perry. I thought he did well against North Carolina. It feels to me like Miami has their swagger back. Their defense was phenomenal against the Tar Heels, and I know it's North Carolina, but still, they looked good. They looked back in business, back like the Miami that we knew before the season started, before they got demolished by LSU. The Miami that we saw last season before they lost 3 straight to end the year. Miami's back. They're going to take care of Florida State. Maybe not by a lot, but they are going to get the win. And then number 8, Auburn at Mississippi State. Back in the summer, I predicted Auburn to win this game, and I'm going to stick by it. But I did say back then, I'm going to continue to say it now, this is a huge trap game for the Tigers, especially with Mississippi State coming off back-to-back losses to Kentucky and Florida. That Florida game, their offense just got shut down. 13-6 was the final score of that game. A very big defensive battle on both sides for Florida and Mississippi State, but Nick Fitzgerald never really fully getting going in this game. I expect him to finally kind of break through and play well against this Auburn team who last week looked extremely sluggish to me. They do not look, to me, like the second best team in the SEC West, if you want to say it's them or LSU or whoever. It's probably LSU right now, but Auburn struggling against Southern Miss didn't look very impressive to me. I know they had a rain delay, and I know they won by double digits, but still wasn't that impressive. 2 weeks ago, they faced off against Arkansas. That game was, in my opinion, closer than that 34-3 score showed. Auburn's offense really didn't get anything going against an Arkansas defense that's still trying to figure things out. So Auburn is number 8 in the country, but still has a lot of things that they have to work on. And going on the road to Starkville, not an easy place to play. If Joe Moorhead has his team ready to go, you could see Mississippi State pull off a huge upset over the Tigers in this one, especially with an angry Mississippi State team that has lost back-to-back games. But in the end, though, I think experience on the defensive side of the ball, especially for Auburn, and Jarrett Stidham is going to be the biggest difference maker in this game. I think Auburn gets a key SEC road win against the Bulldogs, sending Mississippi State down to 500, back at 3-3, and keeping Auburn alive for a chance to still try to compete for the SEC championship game, having already lost to LSU. Then number 6, Notre Dame, at number 24, Virginia Tech. I highly disagree with Virginia Tech being ranked in the top 25 now, but it comes down to ratings. They're ranked in the top 25 because you can't have a Notre Dame squad going up on primetime television, going up against an unranked opponent. It's just not fair, right? But Virginia Tech, keep in mind, they did lose 2 weeks ago by 14 points to Old Dominion. I'm not hating on Virginia Tech. I'm just being realistic and thinking about other teams that has happened to over the past couple of years and seeing how that's worked out. Yes, Virginia Tech went on the road and defeated a Duke team, annihilated a ranked Duke team who was solid. Don't get me wrong, impressive win. Not enough that they should be ranked back in the top 25, though. You win this, you deserve it. I don't think they deserved it after that win over Duke. But Notre Dame should go in and take care of business in this game. Whether Josh Jackson will be back for the Hokies, I'm not sure or not. Probably indications are saying probably not. Notre Dame has looked like a completely different team after Brandon Wimbush was taken out in favor of Ian Book. Ian Book has done a phenomenal job really transforming this Notre Dame offense, making them dangerous once again, much like we saw back. I keep comparing this Notre Dame team back to that 2012 team that made the run all the way to the national championship game. And I see a lot of that Notre Dame team in 2012 in this 2018 Notre Dame squad. I think they go on the road. Virginia Tech, a difficult place to play at night. I'm not going to argue with that. It's a very difficult place at night, but Notre Dame took care of business against Stanford. They took care of business against Michigan. I know both of those were in South Bend, but this is a team that literally looks like college football playoff contenders, and I think they will go get a solid win over a Virginia Tech team that, yes, got an impressive win over Duke last week, but I think is still struggling a little bit, especially if they still have questions at the quarterback position. So those are our picks for this Week 6, are the biggest games of Week 6, and like I said, LSU and Florida. That pick and analysis will be on PredictEV with the link in the description below. So go check us out over there. Like it. You can upvote it if you agree with that prediction, and go search around for yourself and even make your own prediction. There's an opportunity to do that there. Our Heisman watch: Dwayne Haskins, Tua Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray, Will Grier, and Trace McSorley. Last week I said that this year, this Heisman race was all quarterbacks. This was the year of the quarterback. We had some solid running backs. We've got Bryce Love. We've got Jonathan Taylor. We've got A.J. Dillon. We've got Benny Snell, who's not getting enough attention, in my opinion, has been the workhorse and has been dominant for this Kentucky offense, who is now number 13 in the nation. But these guys are the top Heisman contenders, in my opinion, and we'll go ahead and break them all down real quick. We've got Dwayne Haskins, who played phenomenal, I thought, in that Penn State game. He didn't play as well as he has in the past, but he still put up over 270 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns in an environment at Penn State in the whiteout, and got a 27-26 road victory. That's very impressive, and I told y'all last week when I did these videos that some of these guys on the Heisman Watch had a very solid opportunity to show that they were Heisman contenders by performing well on the road in some of the biggest games of the year, and Dwayne Haskins did just that. 270 yards, 3 touchdowns, getting up some yards on the ground as well, but a solid win for the Buckeyes in a game that I will never understand the play call on 4th and 5. That will be one of the plays that will be questioned for years and years and years by Penn State fans and really all college football football analysts why on 4th and 5 run it up the middle, especially when your quarterback Trace McSorley has been playing so well. McSorley throwing for 286 yards in that game against Ohio State and rushing for 175 yards. 175 rushing yards by McSorley compared to the 38 picked up by the running backs for Penn State. So why not give it to him? Why not give him the option to run the RPO, run pass option? You can do anything with McSorley that he's been dominating this Ohio State defense all game and couldn't do it. But I put McSorley up here because despite the loss for Penn State, he played exceptionally well against a very solid Ohio State team and a very solid Ohio State defense, I thought, that was able to battle back down 13 in the first half, down 12 in the fourth quarter, and still get a win. McSorley deserves to be in this Heisman watch. He's not getting him enough attention, but if he continues to play like he did against Ohio State this past week, he will continue to work his way up in the Heisman ranks. Tua Tagovailoa just had a game against Louisiana Lafayette. Nothing, too big there. He was 8 for 8 passing, had 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's all you need. They annihilated the Raging Cajuns. He's got a game against Arkansas coming up this week on the road. He will probably put up some big stats there. But one stat that I thought was extremely interesting: Tagovailoa has the best QBR in the last 15 years through 5 games than any other quarterback. He has the best QBR in the last 15 years through 5 games than any other quarterback. 97.8 QBR for Tagovailoa through these 5 games. So that's extremely impressive for him. Who was number 2, you might ask? Kyler Murray, 96.8. So he's right behind Tua Tagovailoa. And if I'm ranking these guys in order, I think I've got Kyler Murray up there as number 1 in my Heisman watch. I think it honestly might be between Tagovailoa and Murray. But Kyler Murray, 7 touchdowns versus Baylor. Didn't even start the game. I know it was just 1 drive, but still. Didn't even start the game versus the Bears. Ended up winning that game by over 30 points. Had 7 touchdowns, 6 passing, 1 rushing. And like I said when I was analyzing this Texas-Oklahoma game coming up, he can beat you anywhere, on the ground or through the air. He is probably the best dual-threat quarterback in the nation right now. Whether or not he puts up big numbers against Texas, that will really affect his Heisman chances, I think. A lot of these guys have a solid opportunity to put up some big numbers in a big-time game this week against a conference opponent, and if they can do that, they will stay high in the Heisman ranks. If not, they're going to drop a little bit. You've got to perform well in the big games. You can't just perform well against the cupcake teams like Louisiana Lafayette. Tua Tagovailoa, I'm not saying he does that. He has performed well in any game that he has played in this season, big or small. But Kyler Murray, I think, deserves to be up there at number 1. How he performs against Texas, though, will make a huge factor among Heisman voters and among analysts across the nation. And then you got Will Grier, another solid quarterback, over 370 yards throwing last week and 3 touchdowns, but not a very impressive second half. If you remember if you watched that game, West Virginia jumped out to a huge lead over Texas Tech and let the Red Raiders battle all the way back before a 50-yard pick six really sealed the deal for the Mountaineers. Will Grier just kind of fell off the map. He had a very solid first half, and then just kind of petered off in the second half. But still, nonetheless, they got the win. West Virginia is a top 10 team now, number 9 in the nation. They certainly deserve it. And I'm hoping that both Oklahoma and West Virginia keep up the good work, because I can't wait to see them face off in the season finale in November, and maybe, depending on how these two teams fare, face off again in the Big 12 championship game. That would be extremely exciting. If you love shootouts, that would be the game for you. But Will Grier, certainly up there. These are, in my opinion, the top 5 Heisman contenders as of right now. Halfway through the season, these are the top 5 Heisman contenders. I don't have any running backs up there because none have caught my eye and put up big enough stats like we saw last year with Bryce Love, Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Dillon a couple weeks into the season. So I think this is the year of the quarterback. I think you're going to see all quarterbacks get invited to New York, and I'm very curious to see who wins this Heisman Trophy, because we have tons of good and deserving candidates. So I can't wait to see how they fare in Week 6 as the season continues. So our Week 6 predictions, make sure you check us out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert. If we have any prediction changes, that's where we will put them, is out on Twitter. Also stay updated here on YouTube for any potential live streams. We'll announce those out on Twitter and maybe make a short video about that on PredictEV. Please go check us out on there. Analysis on LSU and Florida, and other videos to come later on this week. And always here on YouTube, please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.